9 Survivor seasons, 41 to 49. And on the topic of Survivor 49, let's get the newest kid on the block out of the way because, in my opinion, it's the worst pre-merge of modern Survivor and potentially Survivor as a whole. Although you can definitely fight me on that. This season had everything going for it to be higher in the rankings. You have the innate hype around it, particularly considering 2 contestants return immediately for Survivor 50, as well as the fact it is currently airing, so it is theoretically a lot more memorable compared to older seasons. But in reality, this pre-merge dropped the ball due to a variety of factors. Despite there being 2 swaps, there are very few power flips, with the extremely stale 6-person starting tribe format, as well as the suboptimal swap, leading to people on the bottom of the Hina Uli War being the easy boots. The storylines were repetitive, such as Savannah versus Jawan, the Blue Tribe being eternal losers, plus the Sage and Shannon feud. I feel individuals like Matt and Jason were given the Ghost Island treatment of being extremely under-edited, that they just decided to quote-unquote wake up and just try playing the game the episode they're booted in. People on the bottom with far less memorable personalities compared to those in other seasons. In fact, the only standout character in the first 5 episodes of the pre-mergers to me was Jake, and even then we were robbed of the satisfaction of seeing a villainous figure like him actually being voted out. The Shannon blindside was a big step up, mind you, and definitely the best pre-merge episode, although that's not saying much. In fact, with this being the best episode of a bad pre-merge, it works out to maybe being just slightly better than average in terms of a Survivor episode. Whilst the Merge Nate episode was great, it's unfortunately not a part of this ranking as it was not classed as a mergatory. So yes, while I trust production when they say the merge gameplay gets better, I still can't ignore there are several repetitive confessionals, several bad tribals, and several bad production decisions. Several brain cells. Let's go. Wait, several brain cells? Well, that's because that's how many I had left after watching the Survivor 46 pre-merge. Not even the David Jelinski could save this mess. The only actively good episode within this 6-pack was the premiere, with some fun character exploration, such as the Hunter-Tevin relationship, the beginning of Charlie's arc, plus some of the best confessionals from Kenzie, Tiffany, plus Q. Unfortunately, this season massively falls off, with every other boot being extremely foreshadowed, including the mergatory boot in Moriah, because yes, the mergatory boot is counted as a pre-merger in these episodes of Modern Survivor. Don't ask me why, I don't make the rules. Don't get me wrong, I'm not as negative about Banu as some people in the fandom, but even I can admit his 2-episode stint of being on the bottom is really bad. Episode 3 is the Banu show, and after the random medevac, episode 4 is more of the same. I wouldn't even mind the insane amount of Banu screen time if it had complexity, but so many of his confessionals are repetitive and forgettable, where he's upset he's on the bottom, begs for help, then ends up worse for wear. It's very reminiscent of the dark ages of Survivor AU, such as Blood vs. Water, where it's the same storyline being trod over week after week. Furthermore, Survivor 46 was one of the first seasons to have a 90-minute episodes. It wasn't the first. Survivor 45 had that distinction, but I feel production handled the time requirements much better that season. However, we'll discuss that season's strengths due to its schedule down the line. Survivor 46 production opted out of many journeys that could have been, resulting in extremely obvious filler content, such as the contestants naming Taylor Swift songs, or 5 minutes of teaching Mariah how to jump, because they quite literally didn't have anything else to show. This was only made worse by the Beware idols having one of the worst oversights. The majority of the puzzle section pertaining to the advantage couldn't be unlocked after a tribe lost a challenge or when the tribes became one at the last round of the pre-merge. Because of this, Tiffany gets her advantage very early on around the premiere, but Yanu go to the next 3 tribals, preventing all idol finding content from the other 2 tribes for 4 episodes. Even the episode after, the gem boot, was set up for the best part of 3 episodes, with the only positive being that it begins the string of contestants voted out with idols. Then the final round of the pre-merge is just Sega throwing Mariah, the person on the bottom of their OG tribe, under the bus. While the post-merge is far better, this season finishes near the bottom for this specific ranking. They say the Survivor is a microcosm of life, and much like Survivor in the real world, you don't want to be exploring an unknown territory without a form of protection. Now, in the reality TV sphere, it's a hidden immunity idol, but in the real world, it's Nord. It encrypts your internet traffic to protect you on public Wi-Fi, plus helps you safely access streaming content from anywhere. It also shields you from malware and trackers with things like Threat Protection Pro and Dark Web Monitor. Much like Shannon, it means you won't get blindsided by any people that you thought were your allies. NordVPN gives you peace of mind, and you can try it risk-free with a 30-day money-back guarantee. But let's get back to the video. I heavily considered putting Survivor 43 at the bottom, but ultimately decided against it. The problem with this season is that it doesn't have a big pre-merge tribal. Even the premiere of Survivor 46 is better than any episode the season has to offer, but it is a bit more consistent. After an honestly slightly underwhelming premiere, we're introduced to the best pre-merge character of the season, Cody. This man broke the record for pre-merge confessionals at the time by episode 2, somewhat thanks to episode 2 being a trialed 90-minute episode, but I think this exemplifies just how dependent the season was on Cody's entertainment factor. This man makes episode 2 from his constant scheming, playing hard, and accompanying Hat Idol. I feel the Justine boot was a little too telegraphed for my liking, but honestly, for the greater storyline involving Cody obtaining his idol and winning the salesperson war, I'm willing to let it slide. The final 3 episodes of the pre-merge are then relatively inoffensive episodes of the show. We do have some fun with Lindsay blowing up her position due to paranoia, and a notable episode 5 mini-arc involving Gio revealing his knowledge of power to his #1 ally with the idol. This then causes one of the biggest pre-merge modern Survivor flips, and one of the biggest lies of an Express I've ever seen. Wait. Why is that in the script? The main problem with the idols this season from a TV standpoint was that they were way too similar. Modern Survivor were still trying to find out the Goldilocks temperature for the Beware idol, and to give them their credit, this is better than the Survivor 41 and 42 abominations. But the scenes are so repetitive due to everyone receiving the same task. Said task also had to be accomplished in a very stilted way. It also doesn't help the editors continually reuse the same trope, succeeding in obtaining all but one of the special beads, then needing to work really hard to swing the last skeptical person. The Ellie boot at the Mergatory was definitely foreshadowed, but at least it led to a lot of fun conflict between Gabler and the therapist. Much like the rest of Survivor 43, it really struggles with not having super standout moments, but it is a fairly average overall product. I really wanted to put Survivor 44 higher. It has some of my favourite contestants in modern Survivor. You've got Carolyn, Jam Jam, Danny, and I even feel Franny is an underrated narrator. It also has probably the best offering in terms of a premiere episode. Modern Survivor seasons, and I can't believe I'm actually saying this, actually have quite bad premieres, all things considered, which is bizarre because I feel for winners at War and before, the strongest general episodes were the premieres of those seasons. Even the dark ages of Survivor, like Redemption Island and One World, had premieres that were regarded as the upper echelon of episodes within their seasons. I wasn't in love with the birdcage twist then and even now, but I acknowledge it's a step up from the stupid phrases or the Survivor 43 beads. Brandon probably doesn't get his idol episode 1, but thanks to the birdcage he does, resulting in him negating 2 votes and eliminating his frenemy and Maddie with the final 1. Mind you, it's not a great precedent set that on a tribe of 6 only half can vote, with contestants losing their votes being a staple of this pre-merge, but at least from the premiere it works itself out. However, apart from that, this season's tribals and dynamics are really uninteresting. This season features 2 medical evacuations, and whilst Bruce nor Matthew were unjustified in leaving due to their medevac and near medevac, it only results in actually 4 eliminations, one of which was Maddie, a good blindside, but the other 3 were people on the bottom. This season also had the most egregious twists in Modern Survivor, which is certainly saying something. In the episode 3 journey, contestants were forced to put their hand into a bag with a 2 in 3 chance that they would lose their vote, with all the advantages being different power levels. The swap was a watered down form of what it used to be, making only 1 contestant transfer tribes. They were also given a pre-merge exclusive idol to use in only a maximum of 2 episodes. The birdcage twist not only offered an idol, but a fake idol replica, resulting in one of the worst episodes of Modern Survivor, Survivor 44 episode 3, where we had a contestant in each tribe hiding fake idols, and really that was it. We also got Claire as the boot of that episode because production let her sit out of every challenge. Big whoop. Whilst it feels like this should be higher, this pre-merge is definitely the worst in terms of production influence, and not in the good way. Saved by the good characters and premiere, but far from the best. Survivor 42 has one incredible episode, a cluster of bright glimpses, but overall suffers from the faulty scaffolding the contestants were provided. Barring a few small modifications such as the amulet advantage and accompanying dilemma, Survivor 42 was basically a repeat of Survivor 41. This really puts Survivor 42 on the back foot by squandering any opportunity for being unique. Sure, Modern Survivor seasons lack identity, but despite being a part of the same cycle, at least you could sense production actually put some effort into differentiating the 2 seasons. 43 and 44 were different, 45 and 46 as well, and most recently 47 plus 48. So while I'm trying to rank objectively, it's hard to ignore this feels like a brand steel simulation where I'm putting 2 different casts of people onto the same season scaffold. We have seen advantages play out prior, such as the ship wheel dilemma, hourglass, as well as the idle phrases. Unfortunately, these aren't the most flexible twists, resulting in pretty much the exact same situations as seen before. This was also at the height of the 3-tribe format, non-swap nature of Modern Survivor, making it really show its cracks. Many individuals like Zach, Mariah, plus Daniel were just individuals on the bottom being picked off rather unceremoniously. Most of the episodes were fine. There were some good moments like Swathi blowing up her game, Zach was incredible in his one and only episode, and there was some intrigue in the merge round, but there's as much good as bad. Jackson's ejection grinds the premiere's pacing to a halt. We have the oversaturation of contestants' background content, followed by the over-reliance on advantages in the narrative, most of which aren't even that good and were described prior. The season's pre-merge being so high is really carried by 2 things. Firstly, we were gifted the Takus. Omar was a villain, a particularly rare character archetype in early Modern Survivor, and he played hard. Jonathan too similarly possessed a surprising amount of Survivor strategy given his archetype. He also has some of the most iconic moments in Modern Survivor, such as carrying his entire tribe through stormy water. Marianne is one of the best characters in Modern Survivor and had lots of great moments in the pre-merge, such as the Here's Marianne war cry. Lindsay, Well, she wasn't as top tier as the rest, but I mean, she didn't detract from the tribe. However, the best tribal has to go to the Jenny blindside in episode 3. It turned a really steel split vote into a complete calamity by multiple contestants and resulted in one of the very few modern Survivor pre-merge power shifts. It's a crazy tribal resulting in everyone almost going to rocks. Plus, there's a reason why this tribal is still highly revered after multiple years. If only the rest of the episodes were as good as this one, 42 would be higher up. Survivor 41 is worse than 42, but when it comes to the pre-merge, whilst it's close, I think Survivor 41 edges it out. It's ironic because I feel most modern Survivor seasons have far better merges than pre-merges due to there being more than 6 contestants, a tribal council. But Survivor 41 is different. I feel almost entirely all the good of Survivor 41 comes from the pre-merge, so considering it only ranks about halfway up on this list, it should tell you all you need to know about the rest of the season. Now, there are obvious flaws with this season, even pre-merge, that drag it down. Similar to Survivor 42, this pre-merge is way too twist-focused and has some incredibly OP advantages and is far too brazen with showing off contestants' quote-unquote sob stories. Add on to that, some characters aren't getting as much screen time, like the Fallen Angel plus literal winner of the season. The worst episode of Survivor ever, and a tribe being decimated until 2 players remained, resulted in quite a few noticeable downsides. This also might be me, but I feel the way they handled the guys incident was abysmal. If you don't want to use the collective phrase guys as a show, I can understand. You have that right, it's your show. However, the show crams a lot of virtue signalling in an already rushed premiere, whilst actively using Ricard as a scapegoat. They should have done what AU Survivor did, which is just silently remove the phrase from the show with no hassle. No wonder Ricard now is more involved in Australian Survivor than the US edition he actually played on. However, when you dig deep in this season, and I mean you really have to dig, there are a few diamonds in the rough, despite production trying their best to dump all over this season. Especially pre-merge, you do get a lot of fun content from Shan, Deshawn, Sydney, JD, and I've always been a massive Brad fan. I think production got lucky that UA were the tribe to implode and go to tribal so many times, because I don't think any of the other tribes would have kept my intrigue with their clear hierarchy. JD and his vote advantage really helped bulk up the episode dynamics, especially with Shan's manipulation, albeit the better Brad and JD boots come at the cost of the extremely rushed Abraham and Sarah joined tribals, Voce's obvious boot as well as Jeannie getting picked off. Again, the actual mergatory episode was abysmal. The second part of it is a massive improvement. It's definitely the peak of the season with all the advantages, Shipwheel Island dynamics and storylines melting together in a glorious blindside. Whilst we know nowadays Deshawn's plan to throw the pre-merge challenge would have actually resulted in Sydney being blindsided, I think production instead turning the storyline into it being Erica really works as a TV moment. It really means Erica gets her underdog lamb into a lion storyline and the eventual Sydney blindside is less predictable. The mergatory vote was glorious, an iconic moment in Xander's no but you can have this fake, a close 5-4-3 vote, and a costly error causing a member of the majority to be blindsided. It has everything I love on paper, but then I look at the tribal in its entirety and it required so many advantages. The knowledge is power, which I hate, as well as the hourglass. So it's kind of like in Maths class where you get the answer being correct, but the working out is all wrong. By far and away a good chunk of the best episodes in this season, but if it's the best of a bad season, can I really call it good? Contrary to Survivor 41, I feel production actually did pretty much everything correct regarding Survivor 45. Well, as much as you can do with the Steel 3 tribe format, but we all know production isn't giving that up. This season has a very strong and consistent cast of the non-quitter people. I feel it's the season where production actually took fan feedback on board, proving once again if you want to change your favourite TV shows, kids, you've just got to bully it out of them. All 4 of the actual tribal councils on this season are at the very least decent, and at the upper scale are some of the best pre-merge modern Survivor tribals. The Brandon Donlan tribal is probably the worst of the 4, but even then we get the second half of his arc where everything goes wrong for him, plus the close debate between him or Emily. I've always thought the Brando tribal was pretty underrated, with some fun dynamics too. Then we have the 2 best pre-merge tribals in the 2-1 Sabaya vote, while she literally cooks an idol at tribal, then Kayla blocking every vote at the merge with the first successful shot in the dark play. Jamie blocked no votes in Survivor 44, hers does not count. Need I remind you, this is the first season where episodes were scaled up to 90 minutes. If any Survivor season was going to drop the ball with a switch to 50% more content, it was going to be this one, yet surprisingly, I feel it has the most successful format. There was a swap into 3 tribes at the final 15, which was massive. Most modern Survivor seasons really struggle with the final few waning pre-mergatory episodes. In fact, in other Survivor seasons in this video, I very often stated the episode 4 and 5 rounds as not having the greatest tribals. However, with the swap, we had new dynamics, which easily filled out the screen time. In the first 3 episodes, we also had a good amount of content. The Bora idols were expanded to be massive scavenger hunts, which helped fill out the episode time without it feeling like filler content. Additionally, there were many journeys which propelled a lot of contestants' arcs, especially since they could now choose whether they wanted to play or not. Now, yes, this did create quite the overload of advantages, but honestly, some previous seasons we've mentioned, like Survivor 41 and 44, have had more. So consider me biased, but due to the episode length, I'm willing to let it slide. Some twists still weren't perfect though. The idols mandating a vote being lost was still quite the stipulation, especially when you needed to sacrifice 2 votes for a full idol. Additionally, the amulets returned in their convoluted forms. Although I could look past those twists, and honestly the season's pre-merge would still be number 2 or potentially number 1. The issue lies with some of the contestants, which is odd considering in a lot of modern Survivor seasons, it's production harming the show, while the contestants do their best to keep it afloat. It was the fact that we got both Hannah and Sean quitting the show. When looking at the grand scheme of 45, having 2 bad contestants and 2 ruined tribals isn't too noticeable, but when it's a third of the subsection of the season I'm ranking, well, it matters a lot more. Since my top 2 are very recent Survivor seasons, I should tell you that I feel generally Survivor production have improved their modern Survivor seasons slowly over time. In fact, it's rather tight between the top 2 seasons, as I feel they are fairly similar in their offerings, but one has slightly worse episodes, and that is Survivor 47. Don't get me wrong, this season has a great pre-merge. The premiere episode is great with Andy blowing up his game, yet actually surviving, as well as John having a glorious 1-episode downfall. All in all, Andy's arc in this season is really fun, but is secondary to the chaotic duo of Genevieve and Rome. Not even purpling Genevieve from the first 3 episodes can stop her from having an incredible pre-merge entertainment-wise. Rome was so much fun, and on most seasons would have been an easy early boot, but due to his advantages he was on top, though he was extremely messy whilst on top. We had the last minute Asia vote out, followed by them flipping the game on Keyshawn. Rome's downfall in the Mergatory episode is also fantastic. Now, what I will admit is that this style of Mergatory is very much helped by legacy support. Most modern Survivor seasons at least attempt to make merge rounds close, despite the votes being fairly solidified. It's very uncommon to see a Mergatory or merge round of Survivor where there isn't at least an important second boot option established. This makes the entire Murgatory devoted to dunking on Rome so much sweeter. It really is just 90 minutes of the editors continually showing why Rome is going while constantly showing him as overconfident and delusional. It's extremely old school in its approach, the type of meeting of the tribes and subsequent elimination you would expect to see in something early like the Amazon. The pacing is good, the characters are great, and we had lots of fun rivalries that made the show feel as though there was practically zero filler content included. That being said, I feel the TK boot was fairly predictable, especially with Gabe being set up as on Sue's side. Additionally, the Annika boot was set up for multiple episodes and slightly detracted from episode 5. Whilst I feel modern Survivor seasons are massively helped by swaps, as they provide the much needed content increased to episodes 4 and 5, I feel the Survivor season did well with their metaphorical hand tied behind their back. Last but quite the opposite of least is my top season, Survivor 48. Now, despite being at the top, this season still has its low points. I don't think the premiere is the greatest with an under-edited boot, but every episode outside of that is predictably good with intriguing boots. We have Kevin getting too confident playing both sides, resulting in his elimination. Mary successfully plays her shot in the dark, causing one of the most convoluted tribals. Similar to the Justin boot, I think from an in-game balance perspective, it exemplifies the issue with the small 3-tribe format. However, as an individual tribal, it was very interesting. Now, if there were no swaps this season, it would be far lower, as we would have just seen Vula spiral into nothing. But we have a swap rescuing what could have been a really bad final 2 episodes into some fantastic ones. The Thomas blindside where Kyle and Camilla outplay the majority might debatably be the best pre-merge tribal council. Then the next episode we have the votes flip last minute from Chrissy and Cedric onto the perceived swing Bianca. Plus, whilst there has been better Murgatories, this season was honestly still respectable, with a close vote between Say and Charity, further accentuated by the unique vote reveal order. On the topic of Say, I know she got a lot of flack on Twitter for saying she was carrying the season, but looking at Survivor 48 holistically, it's kind of hard to deny. She was extremely entertaining, and I think you really noticed her absence after her boot during the double elimination episode. Survivor 48 isn't held in the highest regards, as the post-merge is definitely a slog of this mateship ideology, with the majority constantly sticking together, and the repetitive storyline of the itch from Mitch to make a move, only to never do so. But I kind of blame how good the pre-merge was for setting our expectations so high before the merge ruined it. But thank you all for watching this video, I really appreciate it. Let me know if you agree with my rankings, subscribe if you enjoyed. A peace!